Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's January 14th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And there was some really good movement today. Overall, I would categorize this as a range day. The market opened or closed yesterday at 2016, and it closes today at 2008. So even with all that movement, we only closed 8 points down. And this is even though this is a range, it's a huge range, and you still got a lot of price moving in there. So there's some really nice trends one way or the other. But it's obvious we're down, we're up, we're down, we're up, and we really closed, not a whole lot unchanged from yesterday after selling off almost. We really sold off from 18 to 86, so 30-point move straight down, and then it just chopped around in between inside that all day. So interesting day, but lots of entries today. So let's back out and get to them. I marked one here a little early. This was just prior to 7 o'clock, and normally my trades I mark are right around the 7 o'clock hour. Um, but anyway, if you were here, there's a nice short right here. You're working your way down, and it's just every time it comes off that trend line, it's going lower. And this was just another chance. It broke higher and turned and went down. And this is one you might use the limit order. It did back up a little bit. You notice it broke lower and then backed up. So I can't remember exactly how far you could get filled, but you could get filled at least a tick back into this bar, maybe two, and then it drops on down and bounces. You do get a break right there, but you get the same thing, but it goes higher first and turns and goes right out the other side. Just have your stop waiting there. And look at that move. And you figure it's probably going to hit the lower trend line and bounce, but it can't even do that. It's so weak. It comes back and it can't even get back to the trend line and turns back down. I marked this one green. It's a first entry. We weren't back to the trend line, but this thing is just selling off and it's weak. Um, Somebody sent me an email today asking me about that. First entries. There's been a lot of them this, last few days with all the volatility and the high volume. But, it's a calculated risk. But when the market is moving really fast and very volatile, and, it's not the little couple of ticks lower and then reverse on you so much, you generally get a lot more movement. So if it's off of strong support and it's a falling knife like that or a rocketing straight up bullet, sometimes you just got to say, hey, I'm going to take a chance and go with it. So, I know that's not the easiest answer, but with experience, you'll get better at it, and you'll still get it wrong sometimes. So when you're wrong, just exit and you know don't take a huge hit on it. Just exit. And the thing is, if you catch one like that right there, there's you can catch 5 to 10 points down right there, maybe more. And so you can make up for a loser real quick if you do. If you catch one, it's almost worth losing a point or two on a couple of them to catch one of them. So just keep that in mind and remember it's a calculated risk. And if you're pretty good at picking the entries, take them. And if you're not, then just watch them go without you. Just don't force the trade and don't get too overconfident. So, but anyway, I like that one right there. Um, the market, people were looking for a bounce because it came off the low side, but it couldn't even do that, and it just drops. And it was really tempting to take that one right there, but you already had your break here, and you got a big move down. So just kind of wait and see what happens. And sure enough, you go into this little trading range. So don't take anything in that. I finally like this one. Let me move that. Notice the new high there. We did break out there. You pull back, there's a first entry. You pull back, there's a second entry long, and it fails. And look how bearish that bar is. So I like that one for that reason. Thinking that we'd probably test that low again. You got enough for the scalp, but we couldn't get to that low again, and it reversed. And you actually could have reversed there. In fact, I'll mark that one green because you really could have reversed there and taken that to the long side. Um, because you're looking for you're looking for at least a correction now, maybe a reversal. So because we had the break, a strong move to a new low, and then you had you had a couple of failed second entry shorts, but you could just end up failing out the top and going lower again. But there's enough room going up there that you could easily scalp out of that before you get back to the highs. and then it broke higher. It just kind of did the same thing. It just got tighter. And notice this. There's a first entry pullback. There's a failed second entry short, but it can't go higher. It can't go higher. By the time it does, you got all that overlap, and then it bounces right off the trend line, right where you drew those first two. And that's really like a couple of two-legged swings in there, but that's a nice reversal bar. And you know, you figure you're going to test those highs. This thing takes on off. And then it kind of chops across again, and then you get another setup here. And this is one leg, and then a two-legged correction, and then two legs back down again. So there's two-legged corrections with a two-legged correction in the middle. It's a little hard to see, but notice that leg pull back in a second leg, and then it kind of did a little number in the middle, and it's really more of a kind of a congestion area, which is just a small trading range. And I don't have it on there, but let me draw this line for you. And you can kind of see that line working across there, and that's that little failed. And even if you drag it down to there, you still get that little failed tick lower, but that's a double bottom as well, and you get a nice reversal bar, and you're looking for it to go higher. That's the first break of this channel. And the clue that we might overshoot it was right here because we overshot the upper side. So generally when that happens, it's not long before you get a break of the trend line. And but I like that one to the upside. And there's a second entry long there, but that's really, you know, there's not a good setup, a lot of overlap, stems on both sides, and then it breaks higher, pulls back. And then you get a second entry right there. But you also, first you get a, notice that new low, first entry, pull back, a little correction. There's a failed second entry short there that reverses. I like that one. And then this one could have been blue. There's a pullback first entry, and then a little bit of a one tick, and a little bitty tiny bar in a second entry. And you know, you can get in that. Your stop really needs to go down here. But if you wanted to be aggressive, you could take a long right there, and your stop's only going to be one or two ticks. You know, so really, it's a low risk kind of entry. If you play it a little different and just put your stop real close, trying to maybe catch a big move. And what does it do? It takes off. Now we did have a new high in place, so but look how but look, the EMA is slightly up. It's still making higher lows and higher highs. So this is a little uptrend working here. And you probably could even find a, I'm guessing you probably could, find a little channel here of some kind. Looks pretty good right there, and you can see, so that's kind of a upward biased channel. It's still kind of a little bit of a trading range, but it's got an upward bias to it. So, but you finally get your new high, and you reverse, and you know, it kind of does the same thing. It kind of corrects more sideways at first, and then the sell-off, people start realizing we're headed lower again, and off it goes. And notice this one. Pull back first entry, pull back. There's a second entry long off the EMA, and then it turns straight down. Look how bearish. Just go short right there. Quick, easy scalp. And then it tries to go higher again, and it breaks out that upper side and turns. Just have your stop right there, and off it goes. And there's probably a shorter term. There's no probably to it. There's like a shorter term little channel right here. Some of these I've got on here, some of them I don't. But that's like there's like a high right there. It's like the double test, and there's a double top right there, and that's just a big bearish bar. You really should go short there, but even with that big bearish bar, it's almost worth risking to go short right there. You may not have caught it that way though, because the bottom just dropped out of it. So you may not have got filled if you used a stop there below this bigger bar. And then you got a new low, pullback, first entry, pullback. There's just second entry short right off the EMA. You probably wouldn't, you may not have had this bigger midline yet. And if you draw your little short term trend line, you had a break at a new high. So a lot of reasons to go short there. And then it bounces. And when that bounced there again, I drew that line and just drug it up. At first I had it right here. And it may still be there. But it doesn't account for all these breaks. And so later I just moved it up here. first I think I just moved it there, and then later I moved it a little bit higher, and you see it does fit really well. Everything's turning down right off that line all the way down through there. So who's to say what's right or wrong? You just couldn't ignore these setups. Um, but you bounce there, you get a little failed second entry long there, and this is actually, notice the new low, pull back first entry, pull back. There's a second entry short right there. And then there's a failed second entry long right there, and it comes right off that same line. Big bearish bar. It's moving down. And then there's another one of those first entries. I didn't mark this one because you bounced off that line 3 times now. There's a good chance you bounce off of it again, and you did, but it still would have worked. But I just think it was a little too risky to take any more shorts in there. And then finally you get the bounce. You get a break, and this is where you may not have had this trend line, right? But this is kind of your clue here. It's still easy to know to go short here. You don't want to go long there. It's not even a good setup. But notice the break, first entry, pull back, second. You got that failed second entry long. It traps everybody. When it turns lower, have your sell stop there, and you catch that little trade right there off that trap, and boom, it just off to the races. And you get a second entry short right there too. Should have it marked as well. Notice that new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. But it is like there is a double top there, and it's like a double test of that area again. So there's several reasons to go short there, but it is bouncing off this. So there's a chance that you could go work a little higher there. But when you get that trap, you pretty much got to take that one. And you're looking for a measured move like that one. I ain't even talked about the measured moves today, but you measure that one right there. Drag it over, and it's a perfect measured move. Doesn't get any better than that. Then you start working up again. You get a break, a couple legs up to a new high, and it sails off. It was tempting to want to go short there when that thing backed up, and you could have. But when you ended up with that stem there, I thought you were better to wait and see if you get a second entry, which you get there. And again, it's right off. Everything's closing on that trend line. But you also get a second entry counting off this low. Pull back first entry, and then you get that little bar's got a little higher low. So there's a second entry short there. Then there's a failed second entry long right there. And I didn't mark anything else because we're getting so close to this low where the blue line's working across there. Oops. And it's getting a little choppy. It's not dropping like it was before, even though it does shoot on down. And you get a pull back, first entry, pull back, and there's a second entry short there. It's not a very good second entry short. It's the kind of place you expect people to get trapped. It's right there at that support. So when it failed, just go long above it, and then it pulls back, and you get another shot at it. But notice all those matching lows right across there, and that's that little one tick. It goes lower, turns, just go long right there. And that's like a second entry short long too, because you got to break higher there and turn down, and then it comes back above that bar. So it's a type of a second entry long. It's really 2 little legs down there, and then it bounces right here. This is more of a, you got a little bit of resistance across there, so this is more of a breakout pullback long. If you drag this line up, it's probably a little easier to see. You can see that resistance across there, and so that's kind of like a breakout pullback long. But now you're making lower lows and lower highs, and so I think it's a little risky, but I went ahead and marked it in case you liked it. And of course, you get your trend line now, and you drag it up, and you see it fits, and then you bounce off the trend line again. Again, it's a first entry, but it's off the trend line. We know what's been happening, and this one doesn't go very far, and it pulls back. And same thing again. This is almost a little repeat pattern right here. It's a first entry on this chart. It's a second entry on a little smaller chart. But those are all, but you're looking for a new high too, because this is a very obvious channel working up, and so you're looking for a new high. But once you got that new high, I didn't see you marking anything there, and you don't want to really take the shorts to the low side. You can see that working down. You get your break, move to a new low, and then you get a little trap right there. Notice that you went lower, you pull back, you try to go lower again, and just go long right there, and it's right off the bigger trend line. It takes off, pulls back. Um, there's a failed second entry short there. Notice that new low, first entry, pullback, second entry. It did go out the high side. Um, so, I really probably should have marked that one as well. But I didn't mark anything past this point because this is after the 2 o'clock hour. And this one was just barely borderline, and I didn't mark this one. But that would have been hard to ignore. And so you might have gotten stopped out of that one. Um, Definitely when this didn't take off and turned back down right there, um, you probably would have wanted to exit. At the very least, when it went below there, you had to exit, and you would have got stopped out only to see it go higher. But I didn't mark anything. I came back and marked this one at the end. Originally, I didn't mark this one, but this one was really hard to ignore. Um, but that one would have been hard to ignore as well. I could see a lot of people probably got trapped there, and if you did, all you can do is exit when it turns down. I don't think you want to ride that and gamble on whether or not it's going to go lower or bounce again. But you see, you got your break, you finally get a new high, and it just kind of corrected till right until the close. It went a little higher. So, and that was pretty much it for today. A lot of entries today, and I went through those a little bit quickly. But there were so many of them, I felt like this was going to take forever. We're only about 17 minutes now. So, um, not as long as some of the chart lessons we've had, because we just had a lot of movement and a lot to talk about, a lot of trades. But remember, the idea is not to take every trade you see. The idea is to know where they're at and understand how to find them, and then pick out 2 or 3 to 5 of the very best trades every day, depending on how, what your target is and how much money you want to make and how big your trades you want to take. But you really only need, on average, about 2 or 3 good trades every day to make a great living doing this. And if you want to take more trades, there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to take my trades, meet my target, and be done as early as I can every day. My goal is to be done by lunch. Lately, you've been able to be done by 10 o'clock or 9 or 10 o'clock a lot of times. Taking 2 to 3 trades, and then especially if you get a big runner, which it's been easy to do lately, you may not need but a couple of trades. So to make some really good money. But anyway, that's what I saw today. Back out just so you can see the bigger picture. It's just a range day, and there's probably a midline in there too. And that looks like it right through there. And you can see prices were playing off both sides of that line. So that's about that's midway between the two halves. So that might have changed a little bit of these last couple of trades in here too. So something to keep in mind. But anyway, not much more to talk about today, so I'm going to wrap it up. But this is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.